वृतापि तरुणातपं करुणया हरन्ती नृणाम् अभङ्गुरतनुत्वषां बलयिता शतैर्विद्युतां कलिन्दगिरिनन्दिनी तटसुरद्रुमालम्बिनी मदीयमतिचुम्बिनी भवतु कापि कादम्बिनी. Uh, we finished with Bhattanayaka's matam. Now we have to start with Navya matam. So Navyastu, this is the next category. Actually, Bhojakas Bhavakatva Vyapara, Bhojakatva Vyapara. So we had first Abhida, and then you had, instead of directly Vyanjana Vritti, he also accepts Lakshana Vritti. Bhattanayaka also accepts Lakshana. But in the Vyanjana Vyapara, he does not accept Vyanjana Vyapara. Instead, he puts in two new Vyaparas called Bhojakatva Vyapara and Bhavukatva Vyapara. So in that, the Bhojakatva Vyapara is the same as Dhvani. That is enough. We don't need to understand the Bhavukatva Vyapara, which is extra. Okay. Now we move on to Navyaha. In this matam, Navyastu, Kavye Natye cha Kavina Natena cha Prakashiteshu Vibhavadishu Vyanjana Vyaparena Dushyantado Shakuntaladi Ratau Grihitayam Anantarancha Sahridayata Ullasitasya Bhavana Vishesha Rupasya Doshasya Mahimna Kalpita Dushyantatva Avachadite Swatmani Ajnana Avachinne Shukti Shakale iva Rajatkhanda Samutpadhyamanaha Anirvachaniyaha Sakshibhasya Shakuntaladi Vishayaka Ratyadihi eva Rasaha. Our main point here is Ratyadihi eva Rasaha. So what is the format with which you arrive at Rasa? Rati is Rasa, but Rati is Shakuntala Vishayaka Rati. Okay, what the Shakuntalayaha Ratihi or Shakuntala Vishayaka Ratihi. So the Rati or the passion that has Shakuntala as the Vishaya in it. Tadrisha Ratihi eva Rasaha. Now, what is the process by which we arrive to that? Kavye Natyecha. Kavye ityukte Shravya Kavye. In Shravya Kavyas, first of all, Kavya iti Natyasya Prithak Upadanat Shravya Kavyam ne eduthukrom. Because it is Kavye Natyecha, because Natya is given separately, we understand Kavya as only Shravya Kavya. So Shravya Kavye तथा नाट्ये नाट्ये इत्युक्ते नाट्यं दृश्यकाव्यं. सो दृश्यकाव्ये श्रव्यकाव्ये दृश्यकाव्ये च कविना नटेन च. श्रव्यकाव्ये किं भवति? नटः तु तत्र नास्ति, केवलं कविः किमपि लिखितं कविना लिखितं वर्तते, तत्तु वयं पठामः. सो हू इज द पर्सन हू इज टेलिंग अस दैट दिस इज द विभाव, दिस इज द अनुभाव एक्सेट्रा? इट इज द कवि. So Shravya Kavye Kavina Prakashiteshu. Natye tu Natena Prakashiteshu. Natyam Yadyapi Natakantu Tatra Pustakattvena Vartate. That is different. When we read it as a text, when we are reading it as the subject matter, then it still is a Shravya Kavyam because it is a Kavi who is saying that. But when it is shown on stage, then it is the Nata or the actor who reveals the Vibhava, etc. So Kavye Kavina Prakashiteshu. Natye Natena Prakashiteshu. இப்படி கனெக்ட் பண்ணிக்க யதாசங்கிய மனுதேஷ சமானம் அந்த மாதிரி. So Prakashiteshu Vibhavadishu, Vibhava etc. are being shown by either the Kavi in Shravya Kavyam or by the Nata actor in a Natyam drama. Vyanjana Vyaparena. Now what happens after the Vibhavas are all shown? Vyanjana Vyaparena Dushyantadau Shakuntaladi Ratau Grihitayam. This is one section. So Dushyantadau, in Dushyanta and others, Shakuntala Vishayaka Ratihi Grihita Bhavati. So Dushyanta understands, or there is a Rati with respect to Shakuntala in Dushyanta. So Dushyantadau Dushyante. This is a normal Saptami. In Dushyanta. Shakuntala Vishayaka Ratau Grihitayam Satyam. When the passion with respect to or the affection towards Shakuntala is understood in Dushyanta, because there is Dushyanta on stage, Shakuntala is also on stage, they are doing something there, and we understand that Dushyanta loves Shakuntala. So Dushyantadau Shakuntaladi Ratau Grihitayam. Anantaram, then what happens? Sahridayata Ullasitasya Bhavana Vishesha Rupasya Doshasya Mahimnangra. This dosha is a specific beautiful term that Rasagangadhara comes up with. He says it is like Pratibhasika Satyam. What is Pratibhasika Satyam? Go to this example that he gives, Udaharanam here. Shuktika Shakale Iva Rajata. So there is an oyster shell in the beach which is shining because of the sunlight on it. The moment it starts shining, you think it is silver. So Shuktika Shakale, in a small piece of Shuktika, in a small piece of oyster shell, Rajata Khandaha, you think there is a piece of silver in it. Samutpadyamanaha, it is created in that. And what is that? It is a Brahma Akhyaha Doshaha. Adhe pola Sahridayata Ullasitasya Bhavana Vishesha Rupasya Doshasya Mahimna. Now the dosham here, Brahmam, is in the form of Sahridayata Ullasita Bhavana Vishesha. The Sahridaya creates a Bhavana Vishesha which is Brahmatmakam, wherein he thinks that he himself is Dushyanta, or that Dushyantatvam is there in his mind. So he feels love towards Shakuntala. So, doshasya mahimna. Now you have completely transferred all of the problems in the earlier portion to something that is called dosham. Yeah. What will happen if you think of yourself as Dushyanta? Can you look at Shakuntala? Because Shakuntala is not your wife. You cannot approach her. In the Madriyalna, they had created problems before. We were reading all that. Yeah. That sort of a problem doesn't exist now, because this entire thing is put onto the dosham mistake called Brahma. So doshasya mahimna, because of that, kalpita dushyantatva avachadite swatmani. In the mind where you have created dushyantatva in yourself, you've created the quality of being Dushyanta, Kalpita Atmani, in your mind or in yourself, Asadapi, even though Dushyatnatvam is not present in you, Dhirodattaha Nasti, Aham tu, I am not a very Veera person, I am not a king, I am not married Shakuntala. All of these things are only in the Ajnana portion. On the Atma, it is like Shukti and Rajatam is being Aropitam. You are superimposing Rajatatvam onto Shuktitvam. In the same manner, onto Atmatvam, onto yourself, you are superimposing Dushyantatvam. So, Kalpita Dushyantatva Avachadite, being confined, Avachadanam is covered, being completely covered by this illusory Dushyantatvam, which is not true. That Dushyantatvam is being superimposed, and now that has covered your Atma. Tasminna Atmani Ajnana Avachinne, when it is covered by Ajnana in this manner, or you can take this as the example, just as how when you do not have the Jnanam of Shuktika, Ajnanam is covering your mind, and you see the Shuktika Shakale Rajatakhandaha Yata Samutpadyate. Just as how it is being created, the silver is being created in the shell, tatha manasi api dushyantatvam samutpadyate. It is being created in our mind that we are Dushyanta, we have the qualities of Dushyanta, so we feel the love for Shakuntala. This is Anirvachaniyam. Anirvachaniyam is an Advaitic term. Aதாவது you have to take it in the form of first அதை புரிஞ்சுன்றோம், அப்பதான் இங்க புரியும் நமக்கு வாட் இஸ் பிராதிபாசிக சத்தியம்னு. பிராதிபாசிக சத்தியம் இஸ் பிரதிபாச சமயே சத்தியத்வேன பாசதே, और தர்ஷன சமயே சத்தியத்வேன பாசதே. நம்ம பார்க்கும் பொழுது அது நமக்கு உண்மையா தோன்றது அப்படிங்கிறோம். வாட் இஸ் தட் இன்க்ளூட்? ஸோ சத்து சேத் ந பாத்தியேத, அசத் சேத் ந பிரதீயேத அப்படின்னு there is a common sukti with reference to pratibhasika satyam or anirvachaniyam. So if an object should be sat, that it is existent, if we have to accept that an object is existent, what do we have to say? There is no badhyatvam for it. Either this is not true. Okay, let's take a book for example. This book, there should never be a pratiti in my mind. Later, after a few years, someone should not come and tell me, oh, this is not a book that you have, it is a water bottle. Nobody should come and tell me. Then, which means that the jnanam that idam pustakam badhyate. But it is not. Let's assume, for example. So we assume that this book, computer, watch, dress, all of these things are satvastu, because nobody is going to come later and negate that knowledge for us. So satchet na badhyeta, it will not be negated later. Asatchet, if it is completely untrue, na pratiyeta, it won't even be seen. Like shashabhishana அப்படிங்கிறோம். சஷபிஷானான்னு என்ன? இதுக்கு முயல் கொம்பு. முயலுக்கு கொம்பு உண்டோ? கிடையாது. The horns do not exist for a rabbit. இல்ல, let's take a padartha like unicorn, which is a completely imaginary object, but it doesn't even exist in real world. So asatchet na pratiyeta, we won't be seeing it in real life at all. But there is a set of objects which we think it is real at the time we see it, but it is also getting negated later. Take the same example of Shuktika Shakalam, an oyster shell. When we see the silver in the oyster shell, as we see it, we think it is Rajatam. We want to have that silver. Somebody has dropped a silver, let's take it. There is a pravritti towards that also. So we rush towards that place. But as we go near, we realize that it is not silver. So that which was known as silver is now negated, and we realize it's Tattvam, which is Shukti. So if it was Sat, it wouldn't be negated. So Rajatam is not Sat. It is neither Asat like Shashavishana, because I could see that silver. I saw the silver in the oyster shell. I also went towards it, which means that existed at the time of my sight. Adnala, this is called Sadasad Vilakshanam. This is beyond Sat and Asat. It is neither true nor false. It is an illusory appearance. Adada Brahmamangro, we also call it as Pratibhasika Satyam. That which is Satyam when it is being seen. Pratibhasa Samaye.
Mrigatrishna, Miraj, can I give?
Yes, it's the same thing. Pratibhasika Satyam. Mrigatrishnika is also a Pratibhasika. The Rajju Sarpa example that we give, that is also Pratibhasika Satyam. So it is neither Sat nor Asat. It is a Vyavaharika Sat or Pratibhasika Sat. Vyavaharika Sat, at least we can do a Vyavaharam with it. This is an illusory appearance, but for practical purpose, in Advaita, we treat both Vyavaharika Satyam and Pratibhasika Satyam as the same. Because even this world, Pratibhasa Samaye, as long as we do not have moksha, we keep on entertaining with this world. As long as we are in the dream world, we are afraid of the tiger which is there in the dream world. So Vyavahara Samaye tu tat Satyameva Tatra. So adnala Vyavaharika Satyam and Pratibhasika Satyam are the same. So what we take it as Anirvachaniyam. We cannot define it as true or false. It is something that cannot be defined clearly as true or false, either of those. Anala, it is called Anirvachaniyam. In the same way, this Dushyantatvam, which we create in our mind, in ourselves, that also is Anirvachaniya, because it is not a Satya Vastu, nor is it a completely Asatya Vastu, but we experience it at the time of our experience and at the time of our viewing the drama. Sakshi Bhasya Shakuntaladi Vishayaka Ratyadihi Eva Rasaha. Now what happens because of this Dushyantatvam that is being Kalpitam, that is created in our mind now, which is false. Now that because of that Dushyantatvam that is there in our mind, the Atma creates an illusory Shakuntala Vishayaka Rati also in our mind. That Rati and enjoyment of that Rati through the eyes of Dushyantatvam becomes Rasa. Puriyudha? Sakshi Bhasyam Nale, Sakshi is the witness Atma. The witness Atma creates this illusory Dushyantatvam and illusory Shakuntala Vishayaka Rati. Because of that, we experience Rasa. Okay.
And there will also be some form of Rati as Vasana.
So on the Vasana point, iva pogala. See, for this set of people, they are not even thinking about all of that. Whether you have that Vasana or not, it doesn't matter. You have thought about yourself as Dushyanta. You have put yourself in his shoes. Aladhan. Where is the Vasana for Rajatam to show there? Namakku vandu, yeah. If we have experienced what is silver, then we will know that this is silver in Shuktika. If we have not experienced silver at all, someone who is born in the forest who doesn't know about the metal silver at all, then he will only think that it is a shiny object. Chamkin nanichapon. Aladhan. He won't know anything that will tell him that it is silver. Adupole, yes, there needs to be a Vasana, but this Sri Shankuka or Navyaha, they do not talk about the Vasana aspect at all. But without the Vasana existing, how would you understand that this is Rati?
That's what I thought. Okay.
But the fact that he doesn't mention it is important. Utpannaha vinashtaha rasaha nrike. See, we say that dosha mahimna eva tatra samutpadyamanaha rasaha ityuktam. Apo utpanno rasaha vinashto rasaha iti rasa utpatti vinashayoho karane adukku vandu namakku probleme illa. Rasahana utpannaha rasahana nashtaha atratu doshaha utpannaha doshaha nashtaha na solli tatti vittruvene. This is still the Purva Pakshi. Yeah. So ayam cha karyaha dosha visheshasya. Ayam rasaha becomes a complete rasatte brahmammanudrar varango. See, the experience of rasa itself is an illusory appearance. He has totally brought it down. Yatratu brahmananda sodara vishayaha iti uktam tattu adhuna brahmaha eva iti ajnana pakshe sthapitam. Yeah, it is totally ajnana vishayam அப்படினு dosha visheshasya karyaha and pragukta bhavana kalpita dushyantatvena ya bhavana visheshaha vartate sa bhavana visheshasya eva karyaha nashyaha tan nashasya karyaha rasaha api nashyaha. How does it become destroyed? Tannashasya itukte bhavana vishesha doshasya dhvamse raso api dhvastaha airat tirodhattaha swa uttara bhavina lokottara akhladena bheda agrahat sukhapada vyabhateshaha bhavati. So rasasya ananda rupata katham bhavati. What is the rasa and ananda are not the same in this paksham. See, in that paksha, rasa pratitihi itself is ananda. Just as how brahma bhavaha eva anandaha sayeva mokshaha iti uktam. Tatha atrapi rasaha eva anandaha iti uktam. And the rasa charvana or rasaha yatha bhavati tatha anandaha eva. So it is a simultaneous understanding when the bhagna avarana chit, that is anandam and that is rasam. Abdinutu we saw in Bhattanayaka's matam and of course Rasagangadhara kara and Anandavardhana kara, Abhinav Gupta's matam. But here rasa anantaram eva anandaha bhavati abdingra. So this is swa iti swam rasaha taduttaram. Immediately after that bhavi, that which exists, that is a lokottara akhlada. So idella adjectives. So lokottara akhladaha eva laukika sukha vilakshanaha Paramanandaha. So it is an ananda which is different from loka. Lokottara abdingarche, it is beyond the world. So it is a divine happiness that we have, akhlada, which is swa uttara bhavi. Swa iti rasat anantaram yat vidyate. Tena anandena bheda agrahata. It is actually after rasa, but we seem to not understand the difference between the two of them. Rasat anandaha bhinnaha eva. Kintu bheda agrahat. We don't understand the difference between this rasa and the ananda that comes out. That is why we say, oh, sukham anubhavami. So rasa is sukham. That is, we say sukham. Actually, sukham is different. The sukhananda is totally different. Okay. Sukhapadena vyapadeshaha ayam rasaha. We say raso vaisaha or rasaha eva anandaha. Why do we say rasaha eva anandaha? No, it is actually a brahma, because first rasa happens and then immediately after, without any gap at all, swauttara bhavi, immediately that ananda happens, and because of these two coming so close together, we don't understand the difference between the two of them. Bheda agrahat. Hence we say rasaha eva sukham iti sukha vyapadeshyaha. Sukhapada sukhapadena vyapadeshyaha. Rasa becomes a vastu which is indicated by the word sukham. So when I say sukham is equal to rasaha anu potudrom tapitavari abdingra. Is that clear?
But is it so close that you don't realize that ananda sukha comes after the rasa? Is it
that is what they are saying?
Oh.
That is what the Purva Paksha Navyaha tu Navyanam ayameva. This is the opinion.
Okay.
அவளுக்கு நம்ம வந்து ரொம்ப கிளியரா இருக்கணும். We should follow Advaiti, Abhinav Gupta, Rasagangadhara, maybe Bhattanayaka. That's all. Okay, so it's very for us rasa, அதாவது இந்த பிரம்மானந்தத்தை மனசுல வச்சுருங்க. So பிரம்ம பாவஸ்ட மோக்ஷஹான் இருக்கு. அதுல என்ன ஆகுதுன்னா அகண்டாகார விருத்தி. As you are reducing all of your chitta vrittis, you have only one chitta vritti left. What is the chittam nale? You do, okay, let's go from one kosha. You don't have any consciousness of the body, no consciousness of the pranan, you are not attached to the manas, but there are many thoughts in the manas, so you are totally completely quieting the mind, and then you are concentrating on the atman. There what happens is, there is at the end all of the vrittis are gone and only one vritti is remaining, wherein your mind, body, everything is only full of that atma swarupa. Apo when there is moksha, that chitta vritti is also gone. That is, I am contemplating on the Brahman. There are 3 points. Dhyata aham, dhyana rupena, dheya vastum dhyanam karomi. So there are 3 points there. Dhyana, dhyatra, dheya. All of these are also removed, and when that is removed, what happens? Something does not create. There is no creation of Brahman. அதாவது you are switching on a torch, covering it with a blanket. That blanket is akhandakara vritti, dhyana dhyatra dhyayam. You remove that blanket. Are you creating the light there? Unnulla. It is already existing. It just shines. That's all. So this is all ajnanam. Everything else, only that light remains. This is rasam for us.
Triputi.
Triputi karanam. Tatra triputiya velakkinomna, whatever is remaining is Brahma. Adudha rasam. In that this entire chitta vritti is completely gone, supposedly, but நமக்கு அந்த ரசத்திற்கும் பிரம்மானந்தத்துக்கும் வித்தியாசம், the difference between the two is such that in rasa pratiti, it is still that atma prakasha which is there, but you still have that rati there. It has been created because of the vishayas. It is not created because of removing the vishayas from your mind. அதுதான் ஒரே டிஃபரன்ஸ். இங்க இவர் அப்படி சொல்லல, ரசத்துக்கு அப்புறம் உற்பத்தி ஆறுதுங்கிற. He's saying is the ananda is created after you experience rasa. So rasa is also thought of as an ajnana vishaya, separate from the Atman. Okay. पूर्वोपस्थितेन रत्यादिना तद अग्रहात् तद रतित्वेन एकत्व अध्यवसानात् वा व्यङ्ग्यः वर्णनीयः च उच्यते. So he gives an alternative to that. स्वपूर्व उपस्थितेन रस उत्पत्तेः पूर्वमेव प्राक् अव्यवधानेन उपस्थितस्य रति. So you have rati right before rasa. So that from that tad agrahat you do not understand rati. Now the question கேட்டுண்டு அதுக்கப்புறம் we'll go to the line. We'll read the avatarika here. So nanu rasasya lokottara akladena saha bheda agrahat vyanjana sakshat samparka shunyataya vyangyatvam अनिर्वचनीयतया वर्णनीयत्वं च न संभवति इति आशंकायाम अभिदत्ते. No, see, when you say lokottara anandena saha bheda agraha, rasa is different from the ananda. Then what is the role of vyanjana vritti? Vyanjana samparka shunyam nasti. There is no vyanjana at all there. So vyangyaha varnaniyaha anirvachaniyataya varnaniyatvam, that is something that has to be vyangyam or dhvani is something that cannot be described. And the point varade namakku, that is not at all possible. If I say after rasa only ananda comes in, then what is the role of vyanjana here? There is no anirvachaniyatvam for that, which means I have to clearly state that rasa beda agrahamangro. Beda agrahamangarji, I don't know the difference between rati, rasa and anandangro. We just feel it. Then how can you say, how can you define dhvani? How can you define vyangya? Then it is something ho 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 na வந்து இந்த துவனியாலோகத்துல சொல்லுவார் மீலித மீலித அக்ஷிணஹ துவனிரிதி வதந்தஹ அப்படிம்பார். Everybody seems to constantly say about dhvani, closing their eyes and saying, oh, it is a beautiful experience. It cannot be said. Vindavar kandilai kandavar vindilai, it cannot be openly described. The dhvani is such a magnificent thing, but it cannot be described. That is how it becomes then. So anirvachaniyataya varnaniyatvam na sambhavati. It is also not possible for us to then say. Then we have to break it down into all of these things. So swapurva upasthitena ratyadina tad agrahat tad ratitvena ekatva adyavasanatva vyangyaha varnaniyaha cha uchyate. But no, vyangya is describable. Rasa, which is vyangya, vyangyaha, rasa, which is known through suggestion. Vyanjana vritti dwara yaha rasaha pratiyate, vyangyaha eva rasaha iti varnaniyaha, because of what? Ratitvena adyavasanat. First of all, rasat purvam ratihi vartate. Ratyadina tadagrahat. Rati cannot give me directly ananda. So we say that rati and rasa is one. Ratitvena adyavasanat. Rasa ratireva rasaha iti prathamam uktva tadanantaram anandaha bhavati iti vaktavya. So what is the role of rati in Kepamolyu? If after rasa there is ananda and we don't understand both of these things, then what happens to rati? Then there is nothing called vyanjana at all, is it? No, rati also I cannot distinguish apart from rasa. So rati is also the same as rasa. Immediately after rasa there is so first rati happens, then rasa happens, then ananda happens. There is a krama. You are unable to understand the difference between the three of them. So that is why you are saying ratihi eva rasaha, rasaha eva anandaha iti. Vastutaha tatra bhedaha vartate eva iti vadati. Apo सचेतसा आत्मनि कल्पितस्य अवच्छादकस्य दुष्यन्तत्वस्य तत्त्वम् आचष्टे. No, it is only an avachedakam. Then what is the role of Dushyantatvam here? Avachadakam Dushyantatvam. So Sahridayasya Atmani Kalpaniyam. That which is being created here, or illusory appearance that we are creating in the mind, in our own mind, which is Dushyantatvam, Tadapi Anirvachaniyameva. I cannot describe why that is created. It is something, it is a Pratibhasikam. It is neither Sat nor Asat. It is Anirvachaniyam also. Rati is also Anirvachaniyam. Nothing can be described. It is all illusory, and at the same time it is all illusory appearances. It is not real at all. You are in one Brahma. It is like Swapnam. That's all. So avachadakatvam cha ratyadi vishishta bodhe visheshyata avachedakatvam. It's okay. So inge ratyadi vishishta bodhe, when we want to understand rati, for that the visheshyata avachedaka becomes dushyantatvam. That is when we ratihi eva visheshyaha. So that which we want to experience. And how do we experience that rati? We experience it through dushyantatvam. So dushyantatvam becomes the visheshyata avachedakam, confining factor. Rati can come from anything, but we are confining it only through dushyanta because we are seeing dushyanta character on stage. Yeah. Etena dushyantadi nishthasya ratyadehe anaswadyatvat na rasatvam swanishthasya tu tasya shakuntaladibihi tat sambandhibihi katamabhivyaktihi swasmin dushyantadye abheda buddhihi tu badha buddhi parahata ityadikam apastam. So whatever the Prativadi was saying, Dushyantadi nishtasya ratehe. Rati is present only in Dushyanta. That cannot be experienced by the Sahridaya. So anaswadyatvat na rasatvam. There is no rasa, because rasa exists only in Dushyanta. Rati exists only in Dushyanta. It doesn't exist in me. I am not acting. Yeah, it is Dushyanta who is experiencing Shakuntala Vishayaka Rati. So there is no rasatvam in that. Now, Swanishtasya tu Shakuntaladibihi tat sambandhibihi katam abhivyaktihi. So Swanishtasya ratihi, there is a vasanatmaka rati in our mind. How is there an abhivyakti, manifestation of that rati into rasam? Through Shakuntala. I have no relationship with Shakuntala. But how can there be a abhivyakti of rasam in my mind? Swasmin Dushyantadi abheda buddhihi. No, I am thinking that I am Dushyanta himself. So that is why I have this Shakuntala Vishayaka Rati. Iti abheda buddhihi yaha vartate manasi. Bada buddhi parahata. Immediately when I come out of the theater, I know that I am myself. I am not Dushyanta. So there is a badha there at that point of time. So now what happened to the Rati? What happened to the Rasam? How do I figure out all these things? We put all of these things in the realm of Brahmam, Doshaha. You create an illusory feeling of Dushyantatvam in you. And so you have this Shakuntala Vishayaka Rati also as an Ajnanam, as a dosha, Brahmam in your mind. So you are experiencing Rasa and then Ananda. Everything is like a dosha. Immediately when the dosha is gone, your experience is also gone. So all of the earlier points won't even figure out in this matam. It is all taken care of. Yadapi vibhavadinam sadharanyam prachinaihi uktam. Maybe either we will do it next time. Seriya? The Pura Paksha is over for this section, and then he will give an answer for this section. Yeah. Huh?
In the Yadapi Vibhavadinam Gardu Rasagangadhara Karava.
Illa innum varala. He has still not come to that. அது இங்க தான் வரும். அடுத்ததுல தான் கருணா ரசத்தெல்லாம் சொல்லி, and then he is going to சித்தாந்தி இங்க தான் இருக்கு. சத்தியம் ஸ்ருங்கார பிரதான காவ்யேப்யஹ இவ அப்படின்னுட்டு ஒரு சித்தாந்தி போய் he is going to த்விதீய மதம் அத்ரைவ. இன்னும் ஒரு 2-3 பேராகிராஃப் போறது அதை சரி கட்டுறது.
Okay.
சரியா?
சமாதத்தேன்னு போட்டிருக்கார்.
ஆ.
Start.
ஆமா.